Sometimes the truth can be really hurtful.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free, and I appreciate your support. And I appreciate it just a little bit more if you become a subscriber, because it's really easy. You just click that subscriber button, and so you never miss an episode, because we come at you 5 days a week. There's that little notification bell you can hit, and if you like the shows, hit that like button. And to all of you who have already become a subscriber, as you know, I always like to say thank you when I open the show. So, in any relationship, honesty has to be right up there at the top of the list. I think everyone would agree, right? We've all been in relationships. Well, before the team was let go for spring break after 3 days of spring camp, well, 3 practices of spring camp, Mason Cobb, one of the newer team members, met with the media. And he was asked, what did he see? What drew him to USC? Give us your thoughts. Why would you want to leave the beautiful little hamlet of Stillwater, Oklahoma, and come to the big city of Los Angeles? Well, he said, being from Utah, I watched both the games. He's referring to USC's regular season matchup and the conference championship game. And I could just tell there was not a mentality of just domination. The second Utah game, you could tell the tight ends were breaking tackles, and it just looked like they were physically outworking USC. And I could definitely tell there was a hole, end quote. Wow. So, I mean, I know Raylan Goforth and Tuasivi Nomura have moved on, but man, I mean, it's not like Shane Lee and Eric Gentry and Rajon Davis and Chris Thompson Jr. and those guys are still walking around. They're still at USC. But here's the thing. I heard no lies. Cobb was telling the truth. And we're going to find out soon enough if he's the guy to fill the hole that he was talking about or trying to describe. But so far, and I don't think this is an overreaction on my part, I think he sounds like a guy on defense who sounds like a guy from last year's offense. And the common denominator, I'm referring to Travis Dye. They both transferred to USC for 1 year. And when Travis arrived at USC, he was pretty honest when he spoke with the media as well. You know, you might remember I asked him about, his motivational skills, how he plans to not just lead by example, but if you're gonna, he's known to talk the talk. And so I said, your teammates have talked about your trash talking skills. And he's like, yeah, sometimes you just got to tell someone they suck. And he wasn't talking about it necessarily in a derogatory way. He's talking about, hey, you got to pick your stuff up, take it to another level. This is what it takes to be a champion. And while Travis came over from Oregon and they had never won a national championship, he did win a Rose Bowl. He did win a couple of conference championship games. He knows what it's like to beat USC. So he knows from where he was speaking. He has some personal experience. Mason just watched it on TV. But again, Travis was able to back up his truth. He showed it. And he knew that if he was going to, Travis knew that if he spoke as an example, he had to lead by example. And everybody remembers his other quote, no blocky, no rocky. Basically what he was saying is he knew that if you wanted to get on the field and play running back at USC and get the ball, you also had to put forth that effort and show a willingness to block. You had to have the right mentality, what Mason Cobb was referring to. So, you know what? Let's take a step back, everybody. Maybe it's not the scheme and Alex Grinch. Not all of it. Not coming to his defense. I'm just saying, let's have an open mind and consider this. Look, Lincoln Riley is going to back his coaches and his players, as any good head coach would do. You never throw your guys under the bus publicly too often, frequently. But Riley mentioned that he knows that this team is about to do something really big, and it's getting ready to happen with Grinch and with this defense. So even though Shane Lee and Gentry have that right mentality that, Travis Dye and Mason Cobb are talking about, now Riley and Grinch have they have a room full of guys with that right mentality. So I'm not saying that, the guys who have moved on didn't, but remember, Riley, and if we're talking about the defense, Grinch, they inherited a team. They did not recruit the vast majority of the guys on the team. And that's why they use the transfer portal as aggressively as they have. They're looking for the right mentality. So did it come down to recruiting? Is that what got Mason Cobb to leave, as I mentioned, the beautiful little hamlet of Stillwater, Oklahoma? Well, here's what Mason said. Really, it was just about preparing myself for it the next level. At the spot I was at, I was getting pushed too, but here, man, the first weeks I've been here, we've worked combine training. We're doing stuff that gets you ready for what I want to do during the season. In other words, Mason wanted to be in a bigger spotlight. Oklahoma State plays in the Big 12, but again, it's not Los Angeles. And the Cowboys don't have some guy named Caleb Williams playing quarterback. USC has a better chance of being in the spotlight, making the playoffs, getting a lot of national attention. And when Caleb's not on the field, the defense is on the field. And those same guys who are there at the games watching Caleb, well, they're not going to leave and go somewhere else. They're going to watch the defense too. This is why Mason's come out. This is why other players are taking the risk. I'm using finger quotes for you who aren't watching and only listening. Leaving their previous spot, their previous destinations as starters and coming to USC. It's for that reason. Everybody in the country knows, and I'll close this circle at the end of the show in the third segment, that USC is trending up. And they were real close to making the playoffs in their first year. Year two, the bar has been raised. Everyone knows it's the defense that kept USC from making the playoffs last year. There are certain players out there who think, you know what, I can fill that hole. All right. And if you don't want to believe me or bet about it, you want to bet on something that's more sure and you feel more secure, head on over to FanDuel. We're at the midway point of the NBA season. It's here. It's now. It's the perfect time for you to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because if you're a new customer, you're going to get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's a bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win, you loser. So just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. And you're going to be able to bet on everything from the money line to the top point scorers in the game, who's making the most three-pointers. If you're a prop bet guy, add them up, line them up, do it. Because at FanDuel, you get a chance to combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We are at that part of the show where I'm going to tell everyone, hey, go grab your bracket and go listen to the Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown. They have national analysis with insights from the local experts. The Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown has everything you need to know to make the most informed decisions for your bracket. Find the episode on Locked On College Basketball wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. I also want to say thank you to everyone who's watching the show. Always do that at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. You can never say thank you enough. Tell a friend, tell a family member. Make Locked On USC your first listen every day. You want to know why? In 30 minutes or less, I'm going to give you all the news, notes, and information you can handle, including, like right now, some recruiting nuggets. Not bad. It looks like USC is going to have a big recruiting weekend coming up. Weekend of March 18th, 19th. And they're starting to pick up some, I guess, steam as the spring rolls along. They're getting some RSVPs for this weekend, including the number one, according to On3, the number one interior offensive lineman in the country. His name is Jordan Seaton. This young man stands 6'5", 295 pounds. So it's pretty easy to understand why pretty much every major program in the country wants him. The On3 National Recruiting Director, Chad Simmons, he reported on Tuesday that Seaton, this is who he's going to be visiting coming up. He's got Florida, March 20th through the 21st. He's got Florida State immediately after that, 22nd through the 23rd. He's going to stay in Florida, go to Miami, 24th and 25th. So I apologize. Jordan will not be here this weekend. He'll be here the weekend of April 8th, the weekend before the spring game. But Dylan Raiola will also be there that weekend. But he's also going to be visiting Colorado April 22nd. And then he's considering a trip to Alabama in early April. Well, I guess I'm a little confused here. So March 18th. Oh, yeah, no, he is. I guess he is going to be out here this weekend. He's also, this is actually, it'll be the second time. He came out last year for USC spring game. And when asked why he's got so much interest in USC, I'm quoting him, "I'm a winner. So I want to go to a winning program. I'm not so far as looking for a certain location because wherever's best for me. As far as school-wise, facility-wise, coach-wise, that's where I'm going to choose. When I go on the visits, I want to see everything, like the stuff they don't usually talk about. I want to talk to the players. I want to talk to I want to know everything. I can know that sometimes people leave out. When I go on these visits, they tell you the first impression is everything. So a good first impression could lead to a lot of good things in the next couple of years." Seaton's also going to be joining another interior offensive lineman who's visiting this weekend. He comes from Georgia, Grayson High School, 4-star interior offensive lineman, Walter Claire Flynn Jr. Walt Claire Flynn Jr. Now, as of today, when I'm recording this episode, assistant head coach and offensive line coach Josh Henson and USC, they haven't offered Flynn a scholarship as of yet. However, that could change because this weekend, not only is he going to be visiting USC on an official visit, but he's taking part in a 5-on-5 event competition with his power athletic teammates. So, and that'll be in, I think it's going to be in Orange County, Santa Ana. So this is the height of, 5-on-5 if you're a lineman, interior or defensive, offensive or defensive lineman, and then also for 7-on-7. And on Sunday, by the way, I plan on watching some 7-on-7 teams performing out in Mesa, Arizona. there's going to be a lot of talent, including some teams from Florida. I believe one of them is going to be South Florida Express. There's going to be teams out there from California. And there's going to be a lot of prospects that USC is interested in playing out there. So WeRSC.com, Scott Schrader will be there as well. I'll be hanging with him. So a lot of our recruiting information is going to look and sound the same. And that's good for everybody who comes to this show, as well as for everybody who heads on over to WeRSC.com when you're done making Locked On USC your first listen. So you know how NIL, name, image, likeness, has taken over. And you know how it's already starting to trickle now down into the high school realm. Well, now you have these 7-on-7 teams, organizations that are actually willing to pay kids, the players, cash to play on their teams. And in other words, they're paying players to come from other parts of the country to come play on their team. That makes sense? I'm talking about 7-on-7. I remember when 7-on-7 used to be your high school team. Those still happen too, barely. But so you got to ask yourself, I mean, how important is it to these coaches, these organizations, to win an event that they're willing to buy a team of ringers and then fly them in for tournaments from all over the country? I mean, what are they getting out of this? You know, like I said, I'm going to be out there on Sunday. I'm going to ask all the folks involved, with this stuff, what's going on here? Give me your impression. What are your opinions on this? I have an idea, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. I mean, philanthropy and paying it forward, those are noble gestures. But I'm not talking about Nike or Adidas paying the players. I mean, those organizations, they'll be footing the bills for, the uniforms, the gear, shoes, all that kind of good stuff. Excuse me. So are the coaches, managers, these organizations, are they doing it for the advertising and marketing purposes? Paying players to come play for them? I mean, I'm talking about former NFL players are paying high school players, kids, to play on their teams. So is it ego? Is it, hey, my 7-on-7 team is better than your former All-Pro, better than your 7-on-7 team? I'm not mentioning names. You guys want to do your own research, you can Google it, find out which former NFL players are putting together 7-on-7 squads and flying all over the country playing in tournaments. But it's happening. This is a cottage industry. And it's not even a cottage industry anymore. It's a big time industry. And when you own a business, sometimes you kind of have to reinvest to keep your business growing. And the winning programs, they solicit the top players who are willing to pay the fees. You've got players who are willing to pay fees to sign up with these teams so they can be coached up at academies, get the right type of training. And I'm not just talking, 7-on-7 training. I'm talking nutritional training, physical weight room training, mentorship with their education. Again, it's an industry. And you talk about the IMG academies. That's what these things are built off of. So you got kids who are willing to pay to join these programs. And I'm not just talking about the good athletes, the ones who are going to go to college. I'm talking about the not so good ones, the ones who want to get better. So you can see this is how all this works. It's really all about promotion. But there's another angle here I need everyone to kind of take into consideration. there's a lot of, there's rich parents out there. Duh, hello, I'm not telling you anything anybody doesn't know, who might have a son who's, maybe considered a top quarterback prospect. And, they want to see, little Johnny surrounded by the best wide receivers, best athletes out there during these tournaments. So one day, little Johnny can get that D1 scholarship offer to, to their dream school, and the parents will subsidize these teams, pay for certain players to get across country. So, if you want me to draw a direct line analogy, you remember a couple of years ago the universities that were getting in trouble for the Aunt Beckys of the world making up fake resumes, and you have athletic directors who are pocketing cash. This is kind of that same type of thing. You've got parents who are going to play Aunt Becky and pay whatever it costs to make sure their kid gets where they need to go. This is how the game is played. So, for all you guys who like the recruiting world, the rich get richer. And it's not what you know, it's who you know. I'm going to stay on the recruiting pitch here for a little bit longer, just for a little bit. Look, I know a bunch of you like to make predictions or ask me for my prediction on where do you think so-and-so is going to end up? Well, on 3, over on wearesc.com, they have this thing called the recruiting prediction machine, and it's all revved up right now. And it's focused on all the top local prospects in USC's backyard. So you should go check it out. You might be surprised where USC stands with their modern-day pipeline. Because according to the RPM, the recruiting prediction machine, I'm not sure modern day is their pipeline right now. Not looking too good. Now, that's probably a little bit of an overreaction from me. However, you got to love the reaction from former Trojan great BMW, Mike Williams. We'll talk about that coming up next. So, if you're a Trojan, you've heard this before. You're a Bruin for 4 years and a Trojan for life. In Mike Williams' case, he might have only played at USC for 2 seasons, but he still bleeds cardinal gold, period. By the way, you should refer to him as Coach Williams now. BMW playfully reminded one of his former players who was visiting LA this weekend to keep UCLA, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, to keep UCLA out of his mouth when tweeting about USC at the same time. 4-star edge defender Booker Pickett announced on Wednesday that he's going to be in Los Angeles this weekend, checking out both UCLA and USC on an unofficial visit. And it was notable news for both the Bruins and Trojans as they're competing for who's considered the number 87 overall prospect in the country. That's pretty good. BMW, Coach Williams was Pickett's head coach at Wharton High School in Tampa, Florida, the past 3 seasons. Coach Williams has moved on to his new school in Tampa, Florida, Robinson High School. So when the tweet came out, Coach was still, you're always coaching up your players whenever you get the opportunity. And he was having a little bit of fun. He said, quote, "Don't put us in the same tweet with them ever again," end quote. So a little bit of fun there, I thought. I had a good time reading it. But when I did, I immediately thought back to the vision of, I remember BMW standing over the Bruin defensive back in the end zone and saluting the crowd who were watching the game after he scored a touchdown. He literally was standing over the defensive back. I believe his name was Matt Clark. who was posterized all game long. But, young little Matt Clark, he was gutty, like most Bruins. Mike was a dominant player. I talked about him in our episode the other day on Locked On USC. Go back and watch it. Mike was an impact player, unstoppable. The only way you stopped him was not throwing him the ball. Still not over that triple overtime loss to Cal. Anyways, moving forward. According to two writers from The Athletic, Lincoln Riley is just the 5th best head coach in America. Or should we split the difference and say he's the number 6 head coach in the country? Because Bruce Feldman, also at The Athletic, has him at number 7. Stuart Mandel put him at number 5, behind Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, and Brian Kelly. Okay, fair enough. Bruce Feldman, though, had Riley, he felt he had a little bit more work to do. So he put him at number 7. And although Feldman put Riley ahead of Kelly down at LSU, he still had him behind Michigan's Jim Harbaugh, Penn State's James Franklin, and Ohio State's Ryan Day. I'm fine with everybody except James Franklin. I mean, really? Why? Last month, The Athletic also released their annual USC football fan survey. It was published. They did the results. You should check it out. Here are just a few of the highlights. On a scale of 1 through 5, with 5 being the best and 1 being the worst, 91.5% of the USC fans rated the health of USC's program as either a 4 or a 5. The state of USC is in good health. 77.1% of USC fans felt as though the biggest challenge for the Trojans moving forward is building a suitable defense. Just 77%? That number needs to be a lot higher. 82.8% of the fans predicted that USC will finish with either a record of 11-1 or 10-2 in 2023. And just a few more notes before we get out of here. Did you know this? USC men's and women's basketball are both headed to the tournament this year. Of course, you knew that. I've mentioned it. They are one of 3 teams, the other 2, Tennessee and Alabama, to make a New Year's 6 bowl game, the NCAA men's tournament, and the NCAA women's basketball tournament. If the SEC can do it, USC can do it. They showed you. But just a quick reminder, don't forget the men. They tip off Friday morning at 9:15 a.m. on the West Coast against Sparty, Michigan State. That game's coming up. And then also a little bit of good news for the men's basketball team. According to the LA Times, Ryan Karchi, Drew Peterson is as close to 100% as possible, or he's going to be. And that's good news because he's going to be needed if USC wants to win that game. I'm going to go over that game on another episode of Locked On USC because we're almost out of time here. The women of Troy, as I mentioned, they're also dancing Friday. They're in the tournament for the first time since 2014. And just a quick reminder for you people, USC women's hoops used to be the dominant program in the country. It's what I pray USC men's hoops could be one day. I mean, the name Cheryl Miller, Lisa Leslie, there's a lot of big-time women hoopsters who've come through USC. Anyways, the ladies, they tip off against South Dakota State on Friday as well. That game is in Blacksburg, Virginia. So, I'm out of time. I want to say thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen today. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Schad and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court. Plus, you're going to hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout basketball. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. All right. That is it for this episode. I'll be back with another one. I come at you 5 days a week. So until then, you know what to do, everybody.